Hi, it's Rick Gervasi. I'm going to give an instructional video on how to cut your own hair. I've been doing this for about 20 years now. At the moment, I'm still a week away from normally cutting my hair, but considering the circumstances, I figured I'd give this instructional video to help others understand and learn how I do this myself. First, I start by shaving the back of my neck because I keep my hair really short. So what I do is I shave the back of the neck first so that I can understand an even line associated with the back of my neck. And then what I do is I buzz the back of my hair. I usually use a 1 in clipper size. Then I do the sides from back to front. I do the sideburns from bottom to top. And I try to fade into the top. Then what I do is I end up doing the top of my head all the way up to probably about a couple inches before my hairline at a number 5. And then I do the front with a number 6 to keep it a little bit longer. And then after cutting the top, I try to then blend the sides so that there's not a distinct line between the sides and the top. Those that are new to this might want to use the angled guide. That will help them get that line differentiation to disappear. I've been doing this for a while, so I'm able to do it by feel. And then when I'm done, a little bit of hair gel keeps it all in line, and everything turns out to look pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to start with shaving my neck. So I'm going to start by shaving the back of my neck. I usually do this because I keep my hair very short and it's hard to understand where the hairline is once I've buzzed it. So what I do is I do the neckline first with a razor blade, some hot water, and hand soap. What I do is I just soap up the back of my neck first, and I use a handheld mirror and just a regular disposable blade to see through the double reflection what the line looks like. And this is a lot easier to do before I buzz, like I said, because I keep it extremely short and it's difficult to understand where that line is once it's short. Of course, if you have somebody that can help you out with this part, it makes life a lot easier. Also, unfortunately, I require glasses for this part. So, okay. So once I get the neck done, I have this straightish neckline at the moment. I say straightish because my hair doesn't grow fully straight back there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just rinse that off. And keep in mind, I took a shower moments before this, so my hair is softer if you've just washed it prior to cutting, so it makes it a little bit easier to cut. So now I'm going to dry off my neck, and then we'll get on to the actual hair cutting process. So now for the hair cutting process, I usually take 2 towels to put them down just to keep the clippings, make it easier for cleanup. I put one over the sink, and depending on how long your hair is, you also don't necessarily want that going down the drain, so you want to cover up the sink anyway. And then I put one on the floor underneath to hold on to catch any hair that might drop on the floor. Surprisingly, or interestingly, most of the hair falls on the towel on the sink the way that I cut my hair. So the next step is to begin buzzing. What I have is I have a wall hair clipper. You can find this at any drugstore, pharmacy kind of place, or online. And what you have to remember is if you're using this frequently, you have to keep the blade oiled just so that it runs smoothly. And as I mentioned, there's different sizes of blade guards. So these blade guards, this is a size 1, so as you can see, I keep it my hair really short on the sides and in the back. and then I graduate up to a 5 on the top, and they're labeled here, a number 5 on the top. And then in the front, I keep it, I put a little 6 to give it a little additional length so that I can use some gel and help shape the hair. And then, as I mentioned also, there are some blades or guides. I don't have any in here because I don't use them anymore. But the guides that come with the set usually have a one that goes from a 1 to a 4 or something. It's an angled blade that helps you get the areas over here so that they're nice and even, and it flows from the sides to the top more smoothly. The first thing that I do though is I take a comb, just a regular comb, and I comb everything down away from the center to make sure that the hair is all in the direction in which I'm going to be cutting, so that the blades are going to grab it uniformly. If some are going this way and that way, the blades may not grab it uniformly. So once I've done that, and again, my hair's not so long, so not much, you can't really notice that I've done anything here. But like I mentioned at the beginning, I start with the back of my head, and then I go to the sides from the back, front, and then I do sideburns up, and then I do the top. So let's start with the back. Turn on my buzzer. And really, I do all of this by feel because I have the glasses. Take my glasses off. And I do all of this by feel. By starting at the bottom, in the back, and I just run straight up until my head turns, and I can feel it. And I can guarantee that each time I do this, I'm getting very close to the same position for every cut. One thing to note is to clean the guide of the blade, to clean the excess hair off the guide of the blade, because it tends to accumulate and you won't get an even cut that way. So, and you may need to do this a couple times over the same area because it doesn't always get all of the hairs in the first go. So, make it so that you can see what I'm doing. Clean off the guide. What I do is I use my hand to feel if there are any stragglers, any hairs that are still not cut, and you easily identify the ones that haven't been cut. They stand out significantly. Okay, now that I have the back done, as you noticed, I did take my glasses off for that. I'm going to take it off for here too. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do from the back and go up the sides to get the sides done. Keep in mind, again, my hair is shorter than it normally is when I would cut it, but it's the same process. So you got to make sure you're pushing pretty hard up against your scalp to get a good cut. And I used to use a number 2 for my shortest length, but over time I prefer it even tighter and closer. And I usually do this for myself every 2 weeks because my hair grows rather rapidly. And what I'm doing is, notice I did from back to the front, trying to get to a height that's similar to what was cut in the back. And then I'm also doing the sideburn area and the frontal, like temple area. And you can hear when it's cutting and when it's not. And now what I'm doing is to make sure I'm getting it all, is just going in different directions, because the hair has a different grain. It points in different directions on your head. So by doing that, you can pretty much guarantee you getting all of the hairs. If you see the hairs going off. And again, it's all by feel. I'm not even looking at the mirror while I'm doing this. You can, so you can get a guideline, especially if you've never done this before. I think when I started doing this, I would do it using the mirror. And then get tight around the ears. One thing to note, the trimmer doesn't seem, for me at least, to get like as close to the ear as possible. I'll reach that later with one of those like little pen-sized trimmers to get the hairs between my ear and my hairline in here. No reason to worry about that at the moment. And what I do sometimes is I go just all the way around like this, towards the back, just to make sure it's all the same length. And always, usually at this angle, everything's falling off the guide anyway, so I don't need to clean it, but sometimes just double check to make sure. Okay. Alright, so now I got all that. Now I'm going to put my glasses back on so I can see what I've done. And I can feel that everything's feeling pretty good. Okay, now it's time for the top part. Okay, so for the top, like I mentioned, I'm going to take the one blade off, and I'm going to, not blade, guide off, and I'm going to put a number 5 on. Number 5 is, it's actually 5/8 of an inch, if that means anything. It's just, again, it's preference on the size. So what I do with that is I start not at the hairline, but just for the hairline, or just past the hairline. And I go back, and I cut. And I do small strokes because what's going to happen is the hair is going to end up accumulating up against the blades in the guide, and you want to make sure you get that stuff off. So you clean it off, and then you keep doing that. You do it over and over. And you just keep doing it. Now if you remember before, I comb my hair all in a single direction away from the center of my head. So in order to get all of that into the right size, you just go up and over to make sure you get those edge parts. The line between the side of the hair and the top. And I'll do the same thing from the other side, back over. And the hair's all falling down on this towel over the sink at the moment. Okay. You see every time I go over it a little bit more gets cut, so you can start to feel and hear when the hair's all cut. Okay. So far so good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my guide again. I'm going to put the number 6 on, and the 6 is what I do to get the front part of my hair, just this part here. Keep it. It's a little bit longer, not so much to notice. You will never notice the delineation between the 5 and the 6 because of where it is. But getting this allows me to keep it a little bit longer on the front than it is on the top. So when I put some hair gel in there, it's gonna look real, what I think is real good. Now, I took the 6 guide off. Now, again, earlier I mentioned using the angled guide to get the line delineation between here and here not noticeable. I clearly didn't need a haircut at this point. Normally you would see a big difference between the hair up here and the hair down here. So you can use that guide, the angled guide, and what you would do is you would just, based on if the short end was on this side and the longer, thicker end was on that side, you would use that on this side of your head and hold it up against your hair and just go straight back. And what it would do is it starts to smooth out that line. Then there's another one that has the thick part on the opposite side and the thin part on the opposite side, and you do the same thing on the other side of your head. Now, the other tricky part, or because I do this all by sight now and feel, is doing it back with my one guide, my number 1 guide. And what I do is I slowly go up and fade it in myself just by looking in the mirror and feeling it, feeling when it's cutting, to get that smooth look. Now the other part that becomes challenging is the back part, in which the transition from the back of your head to the top of your hair. And that's where really I double check with a hand mirror to see if the distinction is noticeable. If it is, I would then still use the one guide. But now that the top of my hair is the right length that I want it, I'll use the one guide and try to fade it in just by feel and sound. So if you listen closely, you can hear when it's cutting and when it's not. And what I do is I kind of pretend I'm just going straight along the plane to get that straight line. And what that does is that fades the hair in. Now, I take a comb out a good portion of the hair that's stuck up here. You can use a blow dryer, you can use whatever you want. This is what I tend to do, is you use a comb just to get a lot of the loose hairs out, and I comb it back. That also helps get some of the loose hairs out. Okay, and then that's pretty much it. What I'm going to do is going to put some gel on, and I'll show you what the finished product looks like. Another thing that I do typically is I'll take a shower first to rinse all the tiny loose hairs off. Make sure it's all clean, unless if you're using a blow dryer, I guess. But for me, I just take a shower, wash my hair again. It's easier. But I'm going to put some gel in to show you what the final product looks like. Gel you wish. Okay. So put a little bit of gel, and this is just how I usually wear my hair. For those of you that know me, push it all forward, and I swoop up the front. I kind of get a nice line there, and if you notice, there you go. Aside from a beard trim that I still need, this is me having cut all of my hair. I'll show you the results all the way around. I'm going to double check with the hand mirror to make sure that the back transition looks fine and that the line isn't noticeable. You can see that I shaved my neck. I got a little raw there, that's fine. And everything seems to look good. I hope you enjoyed my tutorial on how to cut your own hair. And if you have any questions, please send them my way. I'm happy to help, and good luck cutting your own hair.